In late 2025, a truly devastating series of floods and landslides hit the island of Sumatra in Indonesia. It was, in every sense, a perfect storm, where the fury of nature met the vulnerabilities of humankind. So today, we're going to break down the anatomy of this catastrophe, from the heartbreaking stories on the ground to the incredible forces that caused it and the crucial lessons we have to learn for the future. To really get a sense of what happened, we have to start on the ground with the people who lived through it. Because the numbers only tell part of the story. Their experiences, well, they paint the most vivid picture of the immediate, heartbreaking aftermath.
Just look at this scene. This was in Aceh Tamiang. We're talking about entire communities completely submerged in mud and debris. Roads, bridges, just gone, washed away. It completely cut people off from the outside world, leaving thousands stranded with absolutely no way out.
And this quote from a nurse named Nurhayati, it just says it all. This is an extraordinary disaster. Everything is destroyed. She was working at the only hospital in her area, which found itself right at the epicenter of the crisis, and as you can imagine, was completely overwhelmed. Critical infrastructure just collapsed. Nurhati's hospital was swamped with muddy water. Medical equipment was ruined. Medicines and vital supplies were just swept away. In the most tragic moment, the team couldn't save the ventilators for the baby ICU, and one baby died. It was a total breakdown of the healthcare system, right when people needed it the most. So, what on earth created such a powerful, destructive event? To understand that, we need to zoom out a bit and look at the meteorology behind this perfect storm. Okay, so the main culprit was Tropical Cyclone Senyar. And here's what's so wild. Cyclones forming in the Malacca Strait are almost unheard of. This timeline just shows how fast it all happened. The system went from a low-pressure area to a full-blown cyclone in just a few days, before slamming directly into Sumatra with ferocious power. But here's the thing, Senyar wasn't acting alone. Its power was basically supercharged by a much larger climate pattern called La Niña. You can think of La Niña as priming the atmosphere, just loading it up with extra moisture. It basically set the stage for disaster, making the whole region way more likely to get extreme rainfall. And the result of all that? Rainfall that literally went off the charts. To give you some perspective on the sheer volume of water, look at this record from nearby Thailand. 335 millimeters of rain in a single day. That's the heaviest rainfall in 300 years, 3 centuries. No system, natural or man-made, could possibly handle that. But this is where the story gets more complicated. You see, the extreme weather was the trigger, no doubt. But many experts argue that human activity is what turned a terrible storm into an unthinkable catastrophe. Let's dig into the factors that made the land so incredibly vulnerable. You can really see the two sides of the coin here. On one side, you've got the natural triggers we just talked about, the cyclone, La Niña, and the regular monsoon season all hitting at once. But on the other side, and this is crucial, you have the human factors that completely changed how the land could respond to all that water. And this, right here, is the heart of the problem. For decades, Sumatra has seen massive deforestation. Those forests used to act like a giant natural sponge, soaking up rainwater and releasing it slowly. But without them, that heavy rain had nowhere to go but to rush down the hillsides, creating deadly flash floods and landslides. The aftermath was a humanitarian crisis on a scale that's just hard to wrap your head around. Let's take a look at the sheer numbers to really grasp the massive emergency response that was needed in the wake of this disaster. The human cost was just immense. By early December, more than 950 people were confirmed to have lost their lives. And the truly tragic part was that everyone knew this number was going to keep climbing as rescue teams fought to reach those isolated, hardest-hit areas. And for those who survived, the struggle was just beginning. Nearly 1 million people were forced from their homes. I mean, just try to imagine that. An entire city's worth of people left with absolutely nothing, their houses, their belongings, their livelihoods, all washed away in an instant. And the physical destruction, it's almost impossible to comprehend. Over 156,000 homes were damaged or just gone. Entire neighborhoods were literally wiped off the map, leaving behind this scarred landscape of mud and total ruin. This table really breaks down the impact across Sumatra. And while the loss of life was just heartbreaking everywhere, look at the number of displaced people in Aceh province. Over 940,000
1,000. It shows you just how heavily that one region bore the brunt of the flooding. So, in the face of all this chaos, a massive response effort kicked into gear. The Indonesian government deployed the military, you had incredible NGOs on the ground providing life-saving aid, companies worked around the clock to restore power, and there was even international support, like Starlink providing free internet to help connect victims and aid workers. But it wasn't all just about these huge, large-scale responses. Some of the most powerful stories come from the ground up, from local communities. So let's zoom back into one village that offers a really powerful model for how to live with the risk of floods. This is a village called Bukit Lawang, and that sign points to something called Lubuk Larangan, which basically means forbidden pool. It sounds simple, but it's this amazing piece of local wisdom that's proving to be a powerful tool for preventing disasters. So here's how it works. The community agrees to protect a stretch of their river. They ban fishing there for most of the year. This not only preserves the fish population, but it keeps the whole river ecosystem healthy. And more importantly, it gives everyone a powerful incentive to keep the river clean and free of junk that could make flooding worse. And they take it even a step further with this brilliant idea called a trash bank. Instead of letting waste end up in the river, the community collects it, sorts it, and then turns it into valuable products they can sell. It's a total win-win. It stops pollution, and people actually earn extra income. It creates this amazing cycle of environmental and economic health. Now, a disaster this huge, it forces some really tough conversations at the national level. The big question became, how should the government officially classify an event like this? And what would that even mean for the long, hard road to recovery? Local officials and advocacy groups started pushing really hard for the central government to declare this a national disaster. And that declaration isn't just about words, it's a crucial key. It's what unlocks major emergency funding, it helps cut through the red tape to speed up recovery, and it formally opens the door for international help, which everyone knew was essential. And that brings us to the big, final question that this disaster leaves us with. These extreme weather events are becoming more intense and more common. So as we look to the future, the real challenge is finding the right balance. How do we build systems that can deliver that massive top-down government aid when it's desperately needed, while also empowering and learning from the kind of local, bottom-up wisdom we see in places like Bukit Lawang? Getting that right? Well, that might just be the most important lesson of all.